And so if we're meeting for the first time, my name's Ken Edmonds, and on this channel, I provide information for those that travel with challenges and for the friends and families that travel with them. Today, I have with me a fascinating guest. Her name is Ashley Olson, and we're going to talk about wheelchair travel. So Ashley, you want to give us a little bit of your background, and then we'll start talking about some destinations.
Hi, so happy to be here, and of course talking about travel, which is one of my favorite topics of all times. I started this website, wheelchairtraveling.com, in 2006. I had been already traveling in a wheelchair for a number of years. I was paralyzed in 1996 in a car accident when I was 14 years old, and never lost, the thrill of adventure and curiosity for life and how can I do things and, what can I see and how am I going to make this work? So after I became paralyzed and when I was in college and still having this thirst to explore, I decided to develop a website, wheelchairtraveling.com, while I was actually simultaneously working at a full-time job, just to, start reporting what I saw and my experiences, because I found over the years, if I would call a hotel or a visitor center, for example, I would get some information. Sometimes it would be accurate, sometimes it wouldn't be accurate, but a lot of time there would be huge gaps of information or just a lot of things that I wish I would have known ahead of time. And so I started just to document my travels as a way to just keeping a log. So next time I went back to a destination, for example, Lake Tahoe, I didn't have to remember, oh, what was that hiking trail that I found that was actually accessible, or what was that one hotel that I should completely avoid? I wanted just to keep a record so I could remember. And then, of course, share that information with other people, so then other people wouldn't have to, again, like go through hours and hours and hours and hours of research and making phone calls and getting some information that wasn't accurate. And so after I got the website going and everything, I decided to quit my job and kind of go after it full time. And that's what I've been doing ever since. So my foot is in all different kinds of areas when it comes to traveling, working with the National Park Service, which is a huge passion of mine. Love the outdoors. But I also work with hotels. I do a bunch of videos, just any and everything, interviews to try to just prepare people knowing what to expect so they can make the decisions based on what their needs are. Because one of my main reasons also for creating the website was that I wanted it to be a platform, not just information that I was sharing, even though that's how it started, because that's what I was just technically, physically capable of doing. But even from the get-go, I really wanted to open up the website to be a platform so any and everybody around the world could actually share their interests, their perspectives, how they, got over cobblestones, or how they were able to get over some of these challenges and barriers using certain tools or mindsets or little adaptions or tricks that they learned along the way, because we all have different interests, we all have different abilities and needs and wants and desires, and there's things that we're willing to put up with and things that we're not willing to put up with. So I just wanted to be as objective as possible, putting information out there, pictures, here's how wide things are, this is what the bed looks like, this is what the room looks like, this is how long the trail is, so you can make up your own mind about whether or not it works or doesn't work for you, in a nutshell.
Yes, and it's interesting because I when we talked before the interview that I'd mentioned that I got started doing what I do because I couldn't find all the information I want, and so it's nice to meet a kindred person, someone that that has the same kinds of passion I do to help others. My wife's fortunate; she's not confined to a wheelchair, but she travels with it, and there's some challenges, and if you're not expecting them, they can become a real problem. So let's talk about, because the U.S. is pretty, I won't say cut and dry, but in general, the U.S. is fairly easy. But let's pick some of the places.
Well, I have to disagree on that. Okay, and I really have to disagree on that. Yes, I've definitely found over my years that the U.S. varies drastically in terms of access. I mean, maybe if you can stand up and you can walk a little bit, like access, yeah, is pretty cut and dry. But if you can't, there are definitely some limitation and barriers, depending on city to city, state to state, town to town, you're going to run into different situations.
Okay, so
So
you've
even though
corrected me
even though
already.
there's this
That's fine.
Yeah, even though there's this ADA law, just because there's a law doesn't mean people follow it, and doesn't mean people follow it entirely exactly, and doesn't mean that they follow it, when there's an update like the 2010 amendment to the ADA, which means, pools have to have a lift, if they meet certain requirements and such. There's still places that are just not following, every guideline as intended.
Well, and it's interesting because I have on my channel, I have a video of New Orleans down close to the French Quarter. And, in theory, you would say that the sidewalks are accessible, except that they're
No,
like,
no, 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 no. Yeah, no, they're very slanted in the cobblestones. So that definitely can add with like shifting, and that can be very uncomfortable for somebody in a manual chair or even in a power chair. If you're just sitting all day slanted, that could, cause them a lot of discomfort. So those
yeah,
are definitely the kind of things we need to know.
yeah. Well, I'd say it did take out a couple of cobblestones along the way, and it becomes, if you're not watching, and usually I'm pushing my wife so she doesn't have to push, but sometimes I get distracted and I am not watching exactly where the wheels are, and it's like, oh, that was a bump we
Yeah.
didn't mean.
Yeah, but I mean, not even just sidewalks. I mean, I'm talking about like post offices that I've seen like in the United States that don't have a ramp, that don't have access. A post office, which I think is high on the level of terms of accessibility. I'm talking public restrooms.
Yeah.
Sometimes I've even been to a restroom. I remember in South Carolina, went to an art museum there, and they had an automatic door, and they had all these signs, wheelchair access, and they had wheelchairs you could rent and an elevator. So I'm already thinking this place is going to be great for access. Go around the whole museum, have a nice 2.5, 3 hour visit there, and before I leave, I say, hey, I'm going to use the restroom before I leave. Go to the restroom, there's a big sign there, it's accessible. Even on the handicap stall, there's a big sign, that says wheelchair on it. I open up the door, I see the grab bars, I get in there, try to close the door in my tiny little manual chair that's maybe 22 inches wide, very tiny manual chair, and I couldn't. I was even up on one wheel, like push myself up on one wheel, balancing on one wheel, try to close the door because I had to go, and I couldn't do it. I could not close the door. So there's things like that yes, I mean, there's a lot of smoke and mirrors too, that you may think everything's accessible, but in actuality, it's not.
Okay, well, you know what, I have loved our conversation, Ashley. I think we will have to do this again. Give you a chance to make a couple more trips somewhere interesting, and then we'll talk again about your most recent experience.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Lots of places to talk about, lots of different sites around the US, the extraterrestrial highway. I mean, there's lots of things in the United States to check out.
Oh yeah, I'm a huge fan of the US. My wife and I have traveled. There's probably only a couple of states we haven't been in or through. We love, my wife and I love to travel, so we go where we can. For those that are listening, I appreciate you staying with us. If you haven't already done so, please hit the like and the subscribe buttons, so that way you'll get notified when I send out the next one, and YouTube will know there's some value in it. And again, I appreciate very much having you on today, Ashley.
Yep, happy to be here and look forward to coming back on next time.